We're going to talk about Hulk Hogan, probably the most recognizable wrestler in the entire world, I would say.
Yeah, he was the face of wrestling in the 80s, no doubt. Terry Bollea was his real name. And like you said, if you grew up in the 80s, you grew up with Hulk Hogan. You know, a lot of kids had the action figure, watched the cartoon. You know, he had the size, the charisma Vince was looking for to grow the brand, and, you know, the rest is history.
You know, Vince, he chose basically Hulk Hogan to be the company's showpiece, I guess, for the golden era. I guess that started about, 80 in the 80s, and later I remember he turned into a bad guy. He was a heel, like on WCW, and then I think about 2012, a tape scandal kind of did his career in. So,
you know, Scott, I'm going to mention what happened in 2012 just to get it out of the way. Wrestling fans all know by now what happened with the tape scandal and racial slurs. And, you know, Hulk Hogan's admitted that he was wrong about those and asked for public forgiveness, actually on ABC Nightline. Do you remember any details on that?
I may remember some of the details and whatnot. I think this is the time where I guess Vince totally cut ties with him. I think they quit promoting Hulk Hogan at all associated with WWE.
Here's a man, Hulk Hogan, who was at the top of the wrestling world for years, but he fell in a very public way, you know, and a lot of his fans were, you know, turned their back on him. But, you know, I think we would all do well to remember, you know, we've all done wrong and he deserves a second chance. You know, we've all done things that we shouldn't have done. And, you know, God allows U-turns. And it seems to me, from what I'm seeing on social media and some of his interviews, that he's changed his ways and God's given him a new heart. You know, Hulk Hogan actually has gotten a little bit of religious. He's actually mentions on social media that he was a Christian when he's 14 years old. He's starting to quote scriptures. You know, who would have expected this from Hulk Hogan? He's talked about the importance of the eternal in one of his interviews. I see him wearing a John 3:16 T-shirt on social media. You know, so here, Hulk Hogan. Like, would you ever think, Scott, you'd see a day when Hulk Hogan started to, you know, become more spiritual?
Not really. I mean, but you got to give him credit. In the early days, one of the most wholesome caricatures of a wrestler, you know, especially in the 80s, probably of all time, at least early on.
Well, we were sold the idea that Hulk Hogan was the real American hero. Fight for your rights, fight for your life.
Yeah.
You know, the real American song. And it appears to me that he's done a 180. You know, we've all done stuff that we're ashamed of. And this is something I talk about in the show I co-host up here in Canada. God allows U-turns. It's never too late to make a change. You know, we all need God's forgiveness. I know I do. So I'm hopeful that Hulk Hogan has turned the corner and, you know, we see a new Hulk Hogan going forward into the remaining years.
Has he been allowed to appear at, you know, some of these WWE, like they've had these retirement ceremonies and these special things? Has he ever been seen on any of that since his scandals?
I think there was a clean break in 2015. I know his contract was terminated. I haven't seen a whole lot of him since then, so I would have to say no. There's no big surprise. 2015, WWE terminated his contract. 2016, Hogan was actually awarded a settlement after suing Gawker for defamation, loss of privacy, and emotional pain from that tape scandal. One of my sources said he was suing for $140 million. Another source said that he settled for 31. So I don't know what happened there, but there was a big payout. You know, surprise that Gawker, you know, filed for bankruptcy soon after. You know, so you know Hogan went through a lot of stuff during those years.
Yeah.
But you know, back to a new Hulk Hogan again. You know, he's always been supported many charities. Scott, I'm not sure if you're aware of that.
Oh yeah.
Make-A-Wish. What are some of the other ones? I think there was a whole
American Diabetes Association, Dream Seekers, the Special Olympics. I think I've seen footage of him at Special Olympic events. I know
I've seen
Arnold's
that.
been to a lot of them. I mean, a lot of those guys get involved in that sort of thing. 50 legs. I'm not sure what that is, but Hulk is involved at that.
Yeah, I think that's for amputees. Amputees. Yeah.
Pretty incredible.
That's what that.
Man, I appreciate you coming on and talking Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, it's been great.
How close is he to the top for you? I know Warrior is your guy.
Yeah, there's some things I don't like about the Ultimate Warrior and his personality, but I enjoyed the excitement of back in the day. Hulk Hogan in the 80s was wrestling. He was the face, so he'd be in my top three, top five rather. I guess Shawn Michaels as a pure technical wrestler, you can't dismiss that. Sting, I like him. There's just so many good wrestlers out there, and Hulk Hogan is definitely in my top five. You can't have a list of, you can't have a Mount Rushmore of wrestlers without Hulk Hogan in there somewhere.
You got to have Ric Flair up there somewhere too. Always great.
Well, we might have to disagree on that. Although I did meet the man. They do frequent the gym I go to up here in Toronto. I did shake the man's hand, so he was pretty friendly. So.
That's fantastic, man. Thank you so much, Sean Maves, Mr. Ontario.